Oh, I believe in giving credit where credit is due. And we send politicians to Washington to solve problems for us, right? Their whole purpose there is to work to solve problems and make life better for the American people. And I gotta tell you, boy, I slept like a baby last night, knowing that the Republicans in the House of Representatives are all over this horrific problem known as voter fraud. They deserve a victory lap for being the absolute champions of fixing something that was never fucking broken in the first place. Of taking something that's so freaking minuscule, turning it into a really big campaign promise, then spending all this time and energy and God knows how many trees they killed to write the bill to take a victory lap for something that you didn't even solve for. Now, when you hear the words voter fraud, of course, it's been beat into your head that there, oh my God, there's illegals voting and there's dead people voting and there's all these cases. It's like every third person is an illegal voter, which is absolutely untrue. And I'm going to show you some data in a minute that you can't argue with because the data came from the Heritage Foundation themselves. But the Republicans went and passed something called the SAVE Act. And in the SAVE Act, it seems very simple on its surface. It's every single person in America who registers to vote or re-registers to vote. So if you're a current voter and say you move to a different state, you need to re-register to vote. Well, the only way you're going to be allowed to do that is if you provide proof of citizenship documents, which needs to come in the form of like a birth certificate or a passport. Now for me, that's an easy thing. I know right where my birth certificate is and I have a passport. So I have these documents readily available, but 64% of Americans surveyed do not. They could not get their hands on their citizenship documents in the next 24, 48 hours, even maybe within a few days, because they're in a safe deposit box or they're with a relative, they're someplace else, and they have to find where they are. In some cases, they might have to reorder a birth certificate because they don't have a copy of it, right? So this disenfranchises a lot of people who are already registered to vote where they would have to re-register. But what it also does is it eliminates any type of online registration and mail-in registration, and even those drive-up voter registration drives and those kinds of things. It will eliminate those because the whole idea is, sure, you can apply online, but you'll still have to walk into a building in person and show your documents. But what I think is missing from the bill is the billions of dollars worth of funding it would take to properly staff those buildings so that when millions of Americans show up and go, here's my paperwork, there's people there to actually process it. I don't think they thought through that. But in typical Republican fashion, they didn't think about the long game. And I'm going to talk about how detrimental this is to their voter base in a minute. But let's talk about the numbers first. As part of the Heritage Foundation's work on Project 2025, they were able to provide thousands of examples of this is a person who's been arrested for voter fraud. This is a person who admitted to voting twice, voting in place of their dead spouse or whatever. They have all these examples. But what no one really talks about is the fact that they had to go back 25 and 30 years to get those examples. I'm going to show you this chart behind me. And what it is it's the top, basically, swing states where they did their research. So if you look at this, Arizona is a great example. It's the first one. They had to go back 25 years in a state where they held 36 elections. You'll see the total ballots cast was just over 42 million votes cast. And they found 36 cases of fraud. The percentage of voter fraud in the state of Arizona is 0.000845. And like I said, thank God they passed the SAVE Act, because I would be dreadfully, I was fucking losing sleep thinking this number was going to go to 0.0000846, because that would be the end of the fucking world. So if you need a little bit of help doing the math, in these 7 states, Arizona, Georgia, Michigan, Nevada, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, and Wisconsin, in a total of roughly about 407 million votes out of 407 million votes cast over what averages anywhere, probably about 20, 25 years, there are 250 out of 407 million, 250 actual cases of verifiable, convicted, punishable voter fraud. 250 out of 407 million. And they wrote an entire bill and passed an entire bill to fucking solve a problem that isn't a problem. Because they know that their supporters hate immigrants enough that if they convince you that illegals are voting, you'll go along with this. But they're not thinking about the long-term results. They set out to try to hurt, and it's meant to hurt one group of people. And they don't realize how badly it will hurt them. Because if everybody registering to vote, young voters who are coming up and voting in elections for the first time, and they go to register to vote, say at their university, at some sort of registration drive, you've got, well, gee, here's Chad, who is the upstanding white kid, who is the president of the Young Republicans at his Christian university, who doesn't have his birth certificate or his passport because his mommy has them. And she lives in a different state. And Chad's unable to register to vote. Oh no. They don't stop and think about what will happen. See, they thought they could get women to stop voting. You're disenfranchising, or you're attempting to disenfranchise any woman who's married. They have a passport and a birth certificate from prior to their married name. You want them to jump through all of these hoops so that they can vote. There's a lot of people in the Republican Party that think, well, women shouldn't vote anyway. Their husbands should get to decide, and there should be one vote per household. But bitch, you forget, I am my household. And women like me will fucking walk barefoot over hot, burning glass, or you can keep us from voting. But the 19-year-old Republican man probably isn't going to be as resilient. Way to go.